So, I recently watched every single Mission Impossible film as a lead up to watch this new one. I've seen most of them before except Ghost Protocol, and most of them are pretty good except Mission Impossible 2. I was excited to see Dead Reckoning Part 1, and luckily it was really good. These films have the not so annoying curse of getting better and better. They also get bigger and bigger. Pretty much every film they're told this is the biggest threat they have faced. The stunts also get bigger and bigger, which is always part of the fun. The danger in this one is a powerful AI program which can predict their every move. It's sentient and has a mind of its own, able to learn and evolve. This creates a nice dynamic as Ethan and his team feel like the underdogs, constantly trying to outsmart what seems like an unstoppable force. They are always questioning themselves and their moves because maybe that's what the AI system wants them to do. The opening scene shows us how dangerous this AI is and serves as a good introduction. We then get introduced to Ethan Hunt. Covered in shadow, we hear his voice. This film and the more recent entries in this franchise aim to be more cinematic, which is nice. Mission Impossible as a series understand the effectiveness of practical stunts, lack of green screen, and especially with this film, lighting. The lighting, cinematography, and shot composition in this is great. An example of all these in use is a fight scene in a small alleyway between Tom Cruise and Pom Klementieff's character. Because they are shooting in a small alleyway, they are forced to get creative and we get a really nicely put together action scene with interesting techniques used. Canted angles are tricky and very hard to get right, but luckily this series knows how to use them well and effectively. Even thinking back to the original with Ethan Hunt and Kittredge in the restaurant. Speaking of Kittredge, he's back. His first appearance since the original, which was a really nice surprise. He has a good dynamic with Ethan and was a good inclusion to the film. This movie just has everything I want from a Mission Impossible film. Lots of interesting locations with great action set pieces. Near the beginning, there's a fantastic shootout in a desert with Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson, which had me smiling from ear to ear, as I was ready for this new Mission Impossible film. That smile never went away because the action scenes didn't disappoint and neither did the cast. Tom Cruise is an amazing action star and one of the few true movie stars left. Simon Pegg gives the franchise the comedic relief it needs while also being serious when necessary. Everyone else is great, including the new additions like Hayley Atwell. The problem is that there are just too many characters, which means some get sidelined in favor of Grace, Hayley Atwell's character. This means not only the already established characters like Ilsa Faust, Rebecca Ferguson's character, don't get enough to do, but Grace herself feels slightly underbaked. This series does have the issue of introducing new characters and not always utilizing them later on, like Jeremy Renner. I liked her character, but think she feels like a replacement for the character that was killed off. I'm not going to spoil who it was, but I am going to say that it wasn't necessary and felt underwhelming when it happened. That's partly because the villain in this one was quite weak. He didn't feel like much of a threat. He was bland and didn't have much of a physical presence like Henry Cavill in the previous film, and he didn't feel like he had the impact he should have. He has a history with Ethan and yet it doesn't feel that way. We've seen Ethan more emotionally charged and challenged by other villains in the series. The underwhelming death of one of the characters and the weak villain are my biggest issues with the film. The other issues I have with this film aren't really a big deal, but are issues nevertheless. I do feel like some of the action scenes go on for too long. For example, the car chase with Hayley Atwell. While being a great scene, I do feel like it should have been shortened. This film can also feel like a series of action set pieces rather than a narrative playing out. This may be due to the fact that the narrative isn't the strongest in this one. This movie is a part 1 though, just like Across the Spider-Verse, which means we have to wait until part 2 to get the bigger picture. This film does work on its own and can be viewed as its own entry in the franchise. I can't speak about Dead Reckoning Part 1 without talking about the big stunt which they marketed the movie with. The most recent Mission Impossible movies have a thing for spectacle, and almost every film has a major stunt which they market the film with. This one was incredible and really nails the spectacle as when Tom Cruise rides off the mountain, everything goes silent as we watch him fall. The action is handled well, good choreography, practical stunts and good editing comes together to create intense and entertaining scenes. The action set pieces can't be understated, as they are what a lot of people come to see these movies for. And they're great. The train scene at the end was a fantastic way to end the movie, extremely tense and gave off Uncharted 2 vibes. Moments and scenes like this are sprinkled all throughout the film and make for a really good time. Overall, this is a great addition to this franchise. Solid filmmaking which enhances the carefully planned action scenes. A story and villain which don't compare to others in the series, but makes up for it by how well it was put together. I think these films are great action movies, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 continues that trend. If you love Mission Impossible, you'll love this, and even if you don't, I recommend you check it out. For my score, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.